is to have, really to move ahead and reinvent the social institutions. And that, I think, those are the kinds of challenges that need creative problem solving for not just our country today, but for every country around the globe. And that is a space, a place that a community like this can bring all the knowledge, all the ideas, all the creativity that you have to such great application by making some changes in how you think about the future and look at what some of the transformations are in how people are learning, being disrupted by technologies today, how people are trying to put education together, how people are trying to create things given the disruption in people's brains by the technologies that we have today. So there's some ground that I think you need to cover in order to really bring a community like this to apply yourselves as a community, individually, to help us creatively problem solve the lack of functioning social institutions in America, in Uganda, in Peru, in Italy, in China, no matter where you're from. This is the challenge of the next 10 years. Now, when we think about what the most pressing social issue, and we're going to talk about this and why this is so as we get deeper into this helicopter ride, is probably the most pressing social issue that we have not come to grips with yet is the jobs conundrum. We are now getting close to 7 billion people on the earth. We're headed for 9 billion people over the next couple of decades. And the transformation, the extreme transformation of work, which we'll talk about as one of the big trends of the future, means that the way we think about work, the way we think about jobs, the way we create work is simply insufficient and will not provide even jobs for the 7 billion people we've got on the earth today. And it certainly will have no hope of providing jobs in the future for more people as they come onto the planet. So that's the big challenge going forward, and we'll talk about what some of that looks like as we go into the talk. There's a huge innovation gap in the social sector. We simply do not have, people are not inspired. People are worn out in many social institutions across our countries, and they need the support and help of people like yourselves. And it's not recreating the social institutions, it's not just a social responsibility. It's not just for the leaders on the social side. We know from the cycles of disruptive innovation that social ferment like this, and they always fail in these big cycles, so few other human beings less equipped than we are has solved it. It drives commercial innovation. So there's an enormous opportunity to not only create vibrant, relevant institutions that are matched to the issues and needs of the time, but it also will spawn some new and very innovative kinds of sectors in the economy on the commercial side. So the end game of the battle to get out of the Badlands, the end game, we're at the end game, is really the fearful people versus the high-risk innovators. We need high-risk innovators. And we simply don't have enough. We are not fueling enough innovation in our society to actually push us over the edge and begin to grow institutions, activities that really can bring us together. And one reason is we have a leadership conundrum. Many people are holding back from leadership. One of the things that happens in the Badlands is that institutions and leaders are mismatched to the issues and the needs of the times. And we have had a lot of, you always get a rise of toxic leaders in the Badlands. And you'll recognize some of them. Some of them are gone. And they're not just sort of these malevolent people that are sort of in some of the global space. Some of them are leaders in our own organizations. Some of them are boomers, who, people that are controlling organizations that are just trying to skim by. They're not interested in innovation. They've got their pension, they've got their health care, and they're just hoping that they can get out fast enough, and they're quashing innovation in many institutions, particularly on the social side. So there's a lot of work to be done. We need leaders that can actually bust through some of the toxicity in our organizations to provide the leadership that we don't have. So really, the Badlands are today's leadership crucible. So we are scanning, we're scouting, we're steering, we're looking for these leaders of the future to emerge. They will not resemble the leaders of the past. They will be multicultural. There will be more women. They will come from Generation Y, the millennials. They will come from some Renaissance type second middle agers between the ages of 60 and 80. So it's a very different cast of characters that need to come out. And given some of the profiles of people in this room, you can certainly be a big help if you want to step up to the plate, but it's not for the faint of heart. It is very difficult to stamp out the kind of toxicity that we have in many organizations. But this is the crucible, so you really need to surrender yourself to the alchemy because it's churning, it's changing, and that's what we're trying to do. So as we get to the end of these Badlands, when I wrote my book, Navigating the Badlands, I realized as I went through that nobody reads anymore, so I made a map. So nobody actually has to read my book, they have to read my map. And you can download it off my website for free. But at the bottom of my map, I've got tombstones. And these are the things that you do. Tombstones are things that you do in the Badlands that means you will not be crossing with us to the far foothills of the future. And so one of them is, you know about this. You people are so expert at this. We don't need suboptimal innovators and diversifiers. We need optimal innovation. We need optimal diversity so we can get innovation. We also can't just do mediocre metamorphosis. Most people try to steer through the future by continuing to obey conventional wisdom, which always leads to mediocrity. So we need to get beyond that. So the strategic imperative, if you want to join in the leadership, is don't be a stability junkie, even if you don't want to lead. Don't be a risk avoider. You cannot possibly have the transformation that we've had in the economy, if you think about it, all over the world. It's global. It's no longer the game of the big. It's the game of the many, and it's a level playing field. You can't expect that now that we have the dissolution of all the social institutions to think that we're going to get out of it by conventional wisdoms and incremental change. It simply won't happen. And so this is the time not to be a risk avoider. If you're a risk avoider and you're a stability junkie, just step down, get out of the way. Because what we need are people that have an appetite for more passionate risking. The future won't resemble the past, and I'm going to give you a little lesson in how to be a futurist. And then I'm going to take you through 7 big trends that are shaping the future and draw implications about what that means for the future that will have implications for how you can change how you're working. So, one thing to remember is talent is a target that no one else can hit. That's incremental innovation. Genius hits a target that no one else can see. The name of the game is to bring out your genius. So when you talk about your inspiration and you talk about facilitating creativity, what you want to be doing is facilitating the genius in people. That's really where the sweet spot for where we're trying to get to lies.